my dears, in love and light. 15 ways to tell what your past lives were. Now, you don't need to have full-on past life regression to have clues about what your past existences were. So here's ways to tell. Number 1, you're fascinated, drawn to, or even obsessed with something. You may be really drawn to nature. You may be really drawn to the sea. Perhaps you had a past life in nature or by the sea. You may be a bit obsessed with ships. You may want to go on ships. You may want to go sailing. You may have an unexplainable obsession with sci-fi and just love sci-fi movies so much. Maybe that means you've had a past life in the future, a future life in that case. You may absolutely love cooking and just be really, really drawn to it. Perhaps you were a chef in your past life. You may wish to care for animals a lot. Maybe you love stargazing. Perhaps you feel like you are from somewhere out there in the stars somewhere. Maybe you're very interested in space travel or technology or different kinds of sciences. All of these things, whatever it may be, you're very interested in something. It's an obsessional interest, an interest which makes you feel happy when you're looking at these things. It feels familiar to you. And it may be because not just it being an interest in this life, but there's something that reminds you of a previous life, and you feel good or comfortable when looking at or experiencing these things. Number 2, ways to tell what your past lives were, is that you want to be collecting something. You might collect antiques from a certain time period. They absolutely fascinate you. It's that feeling once more of having them around you. It makes you feel comfortable. It makes you feel like it's familiar, like it's home. You may collect old relics from more ancient time periods. Perhaps you had a lifetime in Egypt or Maya, or perhaps in the UK in the Victorian period, or perhaps you were a Viking in Scandinavia. It could be anything like that, and you're interested in these time periods and you want to collect bits and pieces of them. You may also enjoy collecting coins or stamps or something like that, which may be something that you collected in a previous lifetime. All things that resonate with you and remind you of a lifetime gone by. Number 3, on ways to tell what your previous lifetimes were, is that you like dressing up. Have you seen those people that like dressing up in really old period costumes and go fighting on battlefields? They dress up as Vikings or Romans or anything like that, and they go and fight on battlefields. Maybe, just maybe, they fought in a real battlefield in such a fashion in a previous lifetime. Also, some ladies like dressing in 30s, 40s, 50s or 60s fashion. Well, men and women do, because when they're wearing it, they feel comfortable. They feel like they are who they really are. It's a sense of familiarity, feeling like the person I once was, that I enjoyed being. It's a subconscious feeling, and you may not even realise it's a past life memory, and yet there it is. Why do some people I know dress like they're from the 50s sometimes? Red lipstick and lovely curly hair, perfectly done, and a beautiful dress, a floral dress on. Why do they like that style so much? Because they feel comfortable, because it reminds them of times gone by. This includes dressing up as sci-fi characters as well, dressing up as Star Trek or Star Wars characters or anything else, and going to these conventions. It makes people feel like they're one step closer to the future, the futuristic lifetime they once had. And also includes dressing up as the opposite sex as well, because in the previous lifetime you may have been the opposite sex. Number 4, ways to tell what your past lives were, is you visit a place and it feels like home. So we're talking about a location here. You might go to Ireland and feel like it's so familiar, like you've been here before, like it's home. It could be a village, it could be a town, it could be a certain house. You might drive by a certain house and it suddenly feels familiar to you. You feel very drawn to this place. It may be past lives, memories seeping through, and that's just as a sense of familiarity. Feels like home, and you're very drawn to that place. This also applies to culture too. For example, you might visit India and find it wonderfully fascinating, and you feel like you fit right in there, or any other kind of culture in different parts of the world. It just feels so familiar to you and you want to dress that way and act that way and even learn the language. Whatever it is, it just feels like it fits you like a glove. Number 5, ways to tell what your past lives were, is that when you learn to speak as a child, perhaps ask your parents this, is that you have a bit of an accent. Some children can have a bit of an accent when they're learning to speak, and it sounds like an accent from somewhere else in the world, and it just doesn't make any sense why that's happening. So it may possibly be that they're remembering a language from a previous lifetime, and it's just like if you learnt a new language today, you'd have an accent. Same thing. Number 6, ways to tell what your past lives were is if you actually have past life memories surfacing. Now this often can happen when you're a child because you're brand new into this reality. So the memories haven't faded away yet. They haven't got confused with the new memories you're making. So you may have a memory that doesn't quite fit into anything and it doesn't make sense. It's out of place. So we're talking about memories here that you've had as a child, or they may seep through later in life too, that just seem out of place, a different time, a different location, anything like that. Number 7, ways to know what your past lives were, is that you dream of something, some past life. It may be your death in a past life, like a plane crash or a boat being bombed or just dying of old age, something like that. Because it's a significant event that is emotionally charged, it's often carried through. But sometimes we dream about past life families. We may be confronted with people in a dream that we feel we know and we love very much, and we may become lucid in that dream and not really recognize them. But in a way we do recognize them. So it could be dreaming of a past life family, or you could dream of past life events, anything, especially if it's emotionally charged, it's likely to repeat on you. So look for those vivid dreams where you feel like it's familiar to you and yet it's not. It could be a past life dream memory, especially if it's recurring. Number 8, ways to know what your past lives were is when you have a weird flashback or deja vu. Occasionally something in your life can trigger a memory. So it's not a memory, a past life memory that seeps through, it's more like a feeling or a knowing that's triggered by something. And it's a flashback as well. So you can suddenly experience mental images, or you can experience this sense of knowing, as I say, and it's triggered by something you've done in this lifetime. So past life flashbacks or a sense of deja vu, I've done this before, triggered by something in your life. Number 9, ways to know what your past lives were is that you have knowledge that you couldn't have known. For example, you're studying for a certain profession, like a doctor, but the knowledge is just coming to you as if you already know it. Or if you walk into an environment like a mechanic's workshop and just know what the tools and equipment are called, even if it's just a few bits, and it just comes to you, and there's no way you could have known, and you hadn't picked this up. Now this is very common in childhood, that children can identify things that they couldn't have known, objects, places even, and have information about subjects that they couldn't have known, but they learnt it in a previous lifetime. Number 10, ways to know what your past lives were is when you meet someone that you have an extremely strong bond with, or you feel like you've known them before. Now it's that sense of familiarity, it's that feeling of home. They may be your soulmates even, that's where soulmates come in as well. But you may have known them in a previous lifetime. They just seem so familiar to you. It's like you've never been apart even. So it's meeting that familiar someone. You feel like you've known them before. Number 11, ways to know what your past lives were, is when you meet someone that you just don't like and you don't know why. Their energies, when your electromagnetic fields intersect, it's just a negative match. Well, sometimes we meet people like that anyway. We don't want to say anything, but sometimes we do. But then again, there's some that you just don't like and you don't know why. Now, it may be because in a previous lifetime, who knows, one of you might have murdered the other. You may have got on really badly, and now, hey, you've incarnated in the same family, or you are neighbours or something like that, and there's a reason why you've been put together to work out this karma, karma not being a punishment or anything like that, but just working out those energies, things that happened in a previous lifetime. Those two entities need to work it out because there's learning and experience to be gained there. So when you meet someone that you just can't get on with, there's an intense dislike there, you can't explain it, you just butt heads, there may be some past life history there that needs to be worked out. Number 12 on ways to know what your past lives were are irrational fears or phobias of some kind. If you have a fear of something or a phobia of something and it's not something that you've picked up from childhood, it may occur in childhood this. It's not something through past experience in this life. It may be something you picked up from a previous lifetime, like a fear of the water. Perhaps your demise was you drowned, or a fear of dogs or something. Perhaps there was dogs that made you fearful or attacked you or something like that in a previous lifetime. So irrational fears or phobias not resulting from this lifetime could be a previous one. Number 13, ways to know what your past lives were, is when you have physical pains and there's no reason for them. So we can manifest pain in our body due to a past life memory. For example, if you were in war and your leg was amputated in this lifetime, you might have numbness in the leg. You might have headaches if you suffered a blow to the head. You might have overall feeling of unwellness if your demise involved some kind of disease. But these things are usually pretty short-lived once you recognise where it may have come from and just reason that out. Told the subconscious mind it's not something that's real. I am healthy, and that past life memories will not affect me. In setting that intent, it should clear on its own. Number 14, ways to know what your past lives were, is if you feel like that this time and place is not home. You may hanker after a time period gone by and feel very old-fashioned. Or you may be a futurist and look to the future because you remember some kind of existence which was much more futuristic and find comfort in futuristic ideas and philosophizing. Whatever it is, you feel like this time period now is not really the right one and you really enjoyed a lifetime in some other time and place. And number 15, ways to figure out what your past lives were, is to have a past life regression session. Just book a session with a past life regressionist and travel back in time using gentle hypnosis, like a guided meditation really, and let those visuals, thoughts and feelings come to you. So I hope this has helped you to know why you feel as you do in certain situations about certain things. Perhaps it's bleed through from a previous lifetime, but when I say past lives, I don't mean past lives or future lives. Really, they're all just happening at the same time because there's no such thing as time. But I've got other videos on that. So let me know in the comments what you've experienced that lets you know that you've had previous existences and what they are. If you would like a spiritual consultation session online with Nikki Sutton, please head to nikkisutton.com to find out more about it. And don't forget to click subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and that bell button to receive notifications, to receive regular spiritual inspiration on your journey through life. You know, we're raising the mass vibration together, okay? So go now, in love and peace.